Ladies and gentlemen, there is money to be made this offseason here in Carolina. Someone's going to get it. Question is who? The business he's talking about is esports, a business where, yes, actual physical trades exist. Give me a second. St. John is currently a star player for the Hornets Venom GT, operating under the gamer tag Big Saint. There's actually plenty at stake, not for guys like Bryce, but for guys on the bubble. These guys are trying to make the roster, and tonight is it. The question here is, should the Hornets trade LaMelo Ball? They're going to say no. Joey, he's going to say yes. I'm going to be the judge. That's why I have the hammer here. You're a guy that has done everything in this sport. Why does a third-place finish bring tears to your eyes?
I never dreamed of being a car owner.
Came back with 2 straight birdies, so now he is at 4 under for the day at -1 for the tournament. Not saying he's going to win this thing, but it's been an incredible recovery. We got him spot shadowed, falls down trying to get around the pick. Rather than complain, that's what we'd all do. He shakes it off, then off a Hokies turnover, he takes all his anger out with a big dunk. Over in Pageland, South Carolina, the Central High School track team has developed quite the reputation.
Good throw, Kobe. We have probably 15 individual state champions.
They're winners, all right, but it's how they've managed to do it that has become quite the topic around town.
They call us the grass team because we run on grass.
It's something they don't do by choice. At practice, injuries are common. It took only 5 minutes for us to see one. We paid a visit to their field earlier this spring.
Obviously, track-wise, there are others that have better track facilities than we do.
That is quite the understatement, considering the school doesn't even have an actual track to begin with. In fact, Central is the only one of 4 high schools in Chesterfield County that truly doesn't have one.
Drive.
Chesterfield High and Cheraw High both have tracks. McBee High has access to one, but it's across the street from campus. And yet somehow the Central Eagles continue to amaze, even winning a team state championship back in 2014.
To be able to have that success and not have the facility to be able to practice like other schools do, it's been frustrating.
No, it seems like the odds are always up against them.
That's it.
When the Eagles compete in meets, they don't participate in the pole vault because the district won't build one for them.
Right knee up.
As far as their equipment goes, that's the worst of their problems. But to be clear, there are others. Because they're lacking in a lot of equipment, Central's had to get pretty creative to help their athletes get ready for events. This hurdle, for example, was handmade out of PVC pipe.
We're always behind the ball, but one thing I learned about these kids, they never complain about our field, practices. They just come out and give it 100.
Get up, go! But that doesn't mean the team is fine with their current situation. Every year they've asked the Chesterfield County School Board for some help, and every year they're left wondering why they can't get it.
What I hear is sometimes this end of the county might not get what some other ends of the county do.
To find out what was really going on, we decided to take matters into our own hands. Yet when we called the school board, initially we were told they wouldn't talk about Central's track problem. That's when I went to a school board meeting in May to get some answers. I know there's concern and frustration among them, and they've asked questions that I feel have gone unanswered. Now, after repeatedly ignoring our questions, suddenly the board had some news.
That's a part of the plan that we're going to present in just a few minutes.
Interesting how that changed. In fairness, back in the spring of last year, plans to revitalize all 4 stadiums were unveiled by the board. However, this was the first time anyone had discussed it publicly in months.
Central High upgraded football field and 6-lane track.
When I heard that this was talked about again, I was glad to hear it, but it was a surprise to me.
We went back and watched every board meeting from the past year, and we found something else. In August, detailed plans to upgrade Cheraw's facilities were discussed. McBee's needs were broken down the following month, with the attention turning to Chesterfield in October. Somehow, regarding Central, the district never detailed plans until we got involved.
So move.
In a follow-up call, the school board said that was an accident. Many folks at Central, however, aren't buying it.
I never seen or heard from anybody that was so reliable about getting a track.
And so this is where we are. Central wants help from the board, while the board wants help from the community, vowing to solve all with a new proposed penny tax. Among the track team, optimism is not high the vote will pass.
Sprint to hell.
But then again,
A lot of people want us to have a track. At least they verbalize that. This might give them an opportunity to say, hey, yeah, I'm willing to pay a little extra.
It's yet another hurdle, and most likely not the final one. What if it doesn't pass? Then sort of what would happen?
Then we'd have to go back to the drawing board for capital funds and see what they could do.
But in the meantime, don't expect any less effort from the Central track team. After all, they've never ran from a challenge before.
If I can run on this, I can do anything.
Go, go, go! And that is something
That's your goal, the state championship ring.
that will never change. If you were watching the Panthers and Bucks play their games side by side this afternoon, man, were you on a roller coaster. Both games kicked off around 1. Both had to frustrate Panther fans to no end. We'll start with Tampa. They were at one point good this year. Now they're not. Back in the second quarter, they were having all sorts of problems. Miami, who was leading 17-7 at the break. Well, that was happening. Carolina was holding its own against the best team in the NFC. The Panthers and Seahawks were actually tied at 3 going into the second half. Remember, a win would have clinched the division for Carolina over Tampa, but that never happened. In the third quarter, Carolina suffered a major meltdown. Right after they picked off Sam Darnold, Chuba Hubbard fumbled the ball. It would lead to a touchdown. Seahawks led 10-3. Next drive for the Panthers, they looked to respond, but look what happened. Bryce Young throwing, he's going to get picked off. Julian Love with the interception. Seattle getting it back in Carolina territory, and they would cash in moments later. Darnold, 1 touchdown pass on the day. It happened on this 17-yard strike to A.J. Barner. 14 straight from the Seahawks. They were up 17-3 going into the fourth. Panthers would go on to lose this one 27-10. And if that weren't bad enough, the Bucks lost to the Dolphins 20-17. So a lost opportunity for the Panthers, and now it all comes down to next week. Win that game, the division is Carolina's. After an up-and-down season, maybe it's only fitting it ends that way. For more on what happened, though, today at the bank, we send it back out to Gabe and Gia.
That's just great football, and so I'm really proud of him for, just playing with the kind of effort that we were expecting from him.
Man, it sounds like Panthers rookie Nick Scorton made a real good impression in his first ever preseason game. In the loss to the Browns, he finished with 2 tackles. However, it was the play in which he didn't get the hit that had everyone talking. We're going to pull it up right here. It was in the second quarter with the Browns driving. Their rookie quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, tried to make his move. There you see number 11, Scorton, cuts him off. Sanders going to come back the other way. He thinks he's seen the last of Scorton. Football field, 160 feet wide. In 6 seconds, Scorton turned on a dime, came back the other way, and was able to force him out. That then brings us to Rico Dowdle. I like Rico. I know you like Rico. But let's not kid ourselves. Carolina's breakout back probably won't be back next season. Dowdle bet on himself taking a 1-year deal with Carolina and ended up getting 1,000 yards on the season. It's time he gets rewarded for those efforts, but I don't think it's going to happen here with the Panthers. It's more likely he'll find it somewhere else. Last but not least, let's talk defense. Unlike Rico, I don't think Christian Roseboom will be a one-and-done here in Carolina. Thanks to injuries last year, the veteran linebacker was a surprise addition to the starting lineup. With Trevin Wallace often dealing with injuries himself, Roseboom stepped up and ended up leading the team with 122 tackles over 15 starts. Granted, he was a liability at times in coverage, but overall, Carolina was better when he was out there. Folks, the clock is ticking. The negotiating window starts Monday. Signing period begins Wednesday the 11th.
Michigan football, first and goal.
If you were to ask me to describe Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh, this is not how I would do it.
He definitely has a heart. I think he's a teddy bear as well.
Clearly, Gastonia resident Liana Bell knows something I don't. Having covered Jim when I worked in Grand Rapids, Michigan, I got to know him as a cantankerous coach. She and her family, however, got to know him in a much different light.
Coach Harbaugh reached out to me and was like, "Hey, Liana." I was like, hi.
Harbaugh had heard about Liana's son, who at one point might have been on the Wolverines' radar. Demetrius Walker was a star athlete from Muskegon High School who boasted numerous Division I offers. But U of M was the one he was waiting on.
He was just like, I just want Michigan. I'm ready for Michigan. He was going to get it.
But when Harbaugh called in the fall of 2022, it obviously wasn't going to happen. Demetrius was dying from cancer, and Harbaugh wanted to do something special for him.
This was the day that we were invited to the big house, and this is his first touchdown with Harbaugh and the boys.
The day was chronicled by ESPN and other national outlets. It's an experience Liana still thinks about. now more than a year after her son's death.
I have a lot of videos of us going through that tunnel, so I definitely relive that moment all the time.
Jim and his wife apparently do as well. Even though Liana left Michigan for North Carolina last year, the Harbaughs have not lost touch.
They just encourage me and tell me how great Michi was and how he has changed their life.
He inspired them to keep believing. And while it was a joy to see the Wolverines finally win it all this past week, Liana took greater pleasure whenever Harbaugh would bring up her son's name during media interviews.
You know, when people pass, you would think the world will stop, but it just keeps going. And he's just never forgotten.
The entire thing is bittersweet.
He's supposed to be here. He was supposed to be here celebrating with us.
Instead, Demetrius is now an immortal Wolverine.
It's like I felt the presence.
Still inspiring, still connecting, and still bringing out the best in everyone.